pathological liar drove over this curb right here. Really, really happy. Good morning. This morning's gonna be kind of different. Gavin and I thought it would be fun to go around to all the different places that we've lived in the Salt Lake Valley. I lived here for about 10 years, from the time I graduated high school until Gavin graduated graduate school. So I was here for 10 years, and I've lived in, I think, 7 different places. So we thought it'd be fun to just kind of document all the places that we've lived, talk about what our life was like when we lived there. And I just think it'd be fun to have on record for our kids to look at. So that's kind of the plan today. There's the school. Kind of hard to see. There we go. So I would walk down this sidewalk right here. And right after this parking garage, that right there is where I lived the very first time. It's University of something residential now, but that was where my first apartment was. I lived with some interesting people. Pathological liar that pretended that she had cancer. She claimed that she was abducted. There were a number of things. And then the other girl that I lived with there, she was on a dating site. This is like back before the internet really, where you would call in and you'd make like a little like message thing, like a profile, and then people would leave you voicemails. And she met up with some truck driver, and instead of going to school, she would just go on these like long hauls with this truck driver. Yeah, it was really, really interesting. Anyways, so as soon as I could, I got out of that crazy place and I moved a couple of streets down. Me and a couple of girls from other dorms who were also with a bunch of crazies, we got our own apartment. And in this apartment, I was home alone a lot, and there were a lot of homeless people. And I remember one night when a homeless guy came and tried to break into our apartment through the kitchen window. That was scary. This one, that's my apartment right there on the corner. Yep.
It's nice.
Yeah. Then after that, we moved down to 3300 South, so we'll show you guys that in a little bit. Yep, I parked in that spot where that black car is, and our apartment was number 16, right there. So we lived here for, I think it was a year. I don't really remember exactly how long it was. The one time I went to go see Gavin in the middle, it was late. It was like really late at night. And there was a guy standing in our stairwell. And for some reason I forgot to lock the door, so I stopped and turned around to go lock the door, and that's when I heard the guy in the stairwell. And so I went back in the apartment and waited until I couldn't see anyone, and came down and got in my car and thought, oh, he's gone. And then I was driving around this corner right here, and right where that cardboard is in the ground, he was, and I had to stop, and he wouldn't move, and he wouldn't move, and he was like spinning in circles, and then he started walking like really quickly toward my car, and I freaked out and drove over this curb right here. So this is where Gavin lived with a bunch of his friends. Well, I went from my 3300 South apartment, and then Gavin went from this house, and we lived in the basement apartment after we got married. So we'll show you that basement apartment soon too. This basement apartment is where Gavin and I moved in together right after we got married. I found out I was pregnant with Callista and walked to church. We would just walk down this street, and the church was right there on the corner. And we would walk over to, they had like a dollar theater just not very far away. Gavin and I would go on walks, and it was really cool. It was a fun place to live. We only lived here for about 5 months, and then we bought our house. to drive this way to get to Gavin's hockey game. Once a week he would play roller hockey down at this place about 5 minutes from our house. This isn't even... Is this...
Oh, it's an office building.
Yeah, it's an office building
What
now.
the heck?
Wow.
That was where the mini golf was.
Yeah, you guys, everything has changed. I mean, it's been a long time since we lived over here, but
Yeah,
this used to
true.
be a theater and hockey rink. Look, it's a, well, you can't really see it, but it looks like it's an office building now. Wow, yep.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
All these businessmen going in and out of it. We used to walk down this street right here, that sidewalk, and go down to story time like once a week with Zach and Callie in the stroller. And that was before I was pregnant with Annie. It's just right there. The library is just right at this corner right there. In our first home that we bought, few years after we bought it. So we bought it in 07, 06. Yeah, the end of 06. And in the end of 2009, so 3 years later, we found out that they were building a huge complex for the chronically homeless and mentally ill, and it was literally 5 houses down. So I felt really, really strongly that, and Gavin was starting graduate school, so he would be gone all day, from like 4:30 in the morning until like really late at night. So I didn't really want to be home alone all day. And we started looking for housing, and we decided to rent out our house in West Valley, and we looked at student housing here on campus, and we found this place. And it really worked, and we made some amazing friends here. Gavin could walk to and from class. He could come home on his breaks, and I actually worked as I want to say it's the RA, but I don't know if that was the right word for it, for the couple years that I was here, and it was really fun. So let me show you around. Yep. Smells the same. We used to sit right here on this hill. So I'll show you the apartment that we were in. Our first apartment was up in that corner up there. You just walk in these stairwells and you go up to the 3rd floor. And we would do bulletin boards. I would take Gavin and the kids all around, and we would do bulletin boards. And our apartment was up there. Maybe I'll insert some pictures if I have them. Up there. And up on the 3rd floor. Walking that, being pregnant or having a baby, and like toddlers trying to drag them up, all the groceries, yeah, it was really hard. So anyways, yep, this is where we lived before we moved down to Texas. Callie, here's the hill that we used to sled down. No, sweetie, I don't think we can go over there. And you'd walk down here to your ballet class. You know, even though now we make quite a bit more than we made, I mean, obviously, we were like making no money when we lived here. Honestly, we were really, really happy living here. These were some of the best years of our life as a family, because I don't know, it was just so fun. You could just let your kids go out and play, and you just knew everyone. Good times, good memories. I'm glad I could document it. So a lot of times at lunchtime, I would take the kids in their double stroller, and we would walk through that gate and down that road right there. and meet Gavin at his school that he was in a graduate program there, an OT program there, and we would meet him for lunch. So we would walk down this road. See all those rocks? The kids would gather rocks, Callie for her rock collection along the way. When we walked in there to the 1100 court at the village, there was a bunch of moms sitting around on the hill letting their kids play, and they were talking about recipes and different like traits of what their kids look like. Anyway, I remember literally having those exact same conversations and doing the exact same thing. We would all just have breakfast and then go outside and sometimes bring lunch out. And then all the kids would go inside around 11 to 1. Between 11 and 3, people were usually inside because their kids were all taking naps. And then we would all come back out. It would have been so different if I had been stuck at our house out in West Valley. I would have just spent that whole entire time in the house. Probably kind of depressing, right? Like kind of lonely. And we moved and I had a completely different experience of him going to graduate school, and it was a very, very positive experience. So those are all the stories I have to tell of our time that we lived in Salt Lake. Good 10 years of my life.